Welcome back to Fresh Outlook. School lunch programs cut, financial reforms rolled back in the fight against Ebola, given more than $5 billion. There's some of what is contained in the spending plan for 2015. Take a look.
On this vote, the yeas are 219, the nays are 206. The motion is adopted.
The House of Representatives voted to pass a $1.1 trillion government-wide spending bill that would keep most federal agencies running through September 30th, the end of the current fiscal year. It took a good amount of cajoling from congressmen.
I urge members to vote for this bill and keep the government open. It's a good bill. Vote for it.
All the opposite side has to do is to stop supporting a bill that would allow the biggest banks in America to rip off the people one more time.
But the approval came so late, the Senate had to pass a 48-hour extension in existing funding to give it time to take up the full measure. Action was mandatory because the government would have run out of funds at midnight.
My job tonight is to say thank you and Merry Christmas.
The legislation still must be passed by the Senate before it can be sent to Obama for signing into law.
And we're back live on set here at Fresh Outlook. I am joined by the Ebru think tank, Dr. Alain Sanders, political science professor from St. Peter's University, Jackie Guzda from Western Connecticut University, Rob Pallitto from Seton Hall University, and joining us from Washington, D.C. is Nicole Kaeding. She is a Cato budget analyst. Her focus is on the federal budget and spending policy here in the United States. I will begin with you, Nicole. What are your thoughts about this deal cut by Congress? Who wins, who loses, in your opinion?
I think that this bill represents the good, the bad, and the ugly of Washington. The good, it cuts spending for the Environmental Protection Agency. It cuts spending for the Internal Revenue Service, both agencies that have been running amok recently. It also eliminates a bailout for the insurance industry. The bad, it doesn't actually cut spending. It honors a previous deal that Congress made, but it doesn't cut spending and tackle our entitlement program. And the ugly is that it blocked marijuana legalization here in the District of Columbia, which was approved overwhelmingly by voters in November.
All right, Nicole, good, bad, and ugly. I love Clint Eastwood, so I love her analogy or metaphor, whichever it is. Jackie, you covered your head when you heard Nicole talking. You disagree with what she's saying. What are your thoughts on this spending plan? To me, at least, the lawmakers prevented a shutdown of government and came to some kind of compromise finally.
Sure. That's what happened, is that we had to take the good with the bad. My perception is a little different than Nicole's. I don't think the EPA has run amok. I think that people who complain about the EPA running amok should not blame anybody when their kid gets cancer if they want to cut that kind of spending. Look, we had to compromise. And I think the beauty that came out of this is that the Democrats now have a reason to live. They're finding their purpose in 2016, and it's going to be led by Elizabeth Warren. I'm not saying that she's going to get the nomination. I highly doubt that she will. However, you've got Elizabeth Warren bringing up the charge that says, let's not let the big banks, let's not let Wall Street run away with things and muck everything up again. And I think that's going to mobilize the Democrats. They're going to say, yeah, the base says let's stand up for the little guy, and don't disassemble Dodd-Frank. Don't let rich couples get $3 million to campaign finance. Let's stand up for the little guy, and that's going to be their purpose. So that's the beautiful thing that came out of this.
Okay, we'll get Nicole's side of that in just a second, but let's turn to Alan first. Alan, what are your thoughts on this spending plan?
Well, I think the spending plan pretty much tells you what's going to be happening politically going forward. It's heavily Republican tilted. Many of the compromises tilted in the direction of the Republican Party, and that's because the new Congress will, of course, be Republicans, and so the Republicans had the better and the stronger position in the negotiations right now. But you also see what's going to be happening. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is going to be energized, and I agree that Elizabeth Warren will be leading that wing. But the Tea Party wing will also be energized because they feel that they have a majority, with the Republicans having new outsized majorities, particularly actually in the House. And so what's going to be happening is more polarized politics. And I think you sort of saw the beginnings of that. The Democrats, of course, on their side, but the Republicans. Senator Ted Cruz has been active in pushing for his agenda. The Tea Party wing of the Republican Party has also been active. Everybody understood that we needed to fund the government going forward because the Republican wanted a clean slate starting in 2015. But once they get the clean slate, I think you will see both wings, both extreme wings of the party, and by extremism I don't mean that they're extremists, but the more liberal wing and the more conservative wing of both parties activating for their agenda and positioning themselves and positioning their parties, trying to position their parties for the presidential election.
I think it's interesting that officially a budget isn't being passed here. An omnibus bill is being passed to tide over spending because an actual budget I don't think has been put forward or passed since President Obama has been elected. I might be wrong, but at least seems that way. The government shutdown was prevented, Rob. Gridlock, at least for the short term, has been curtailed. What are your thoughts on this from a political standpoint?
Well, it's kind of a scary precedent. We've seen this recently a couple of times where we're sort of on the brink of a shutdown, and there was an actual shutdown, and we're at the last minute we work something out. I mean, it's not good for the people. It's not good for the government, and I'm afraid we're going to see more of it going forward when the new Congress comes in.
Let's turn now to Nicole Kaeding, joining us from Washington, D.C. via Skype. Nicole, you've been called out here. We've got a little fight going on between you and Jackie Guzda. She doesn't believe that the EPA has run amok. Why do you feel the Environmental Protection Agency has gone too far?
Well, one of the things that the bill does is actually blocks a regulation that EPA is trying to promulgate that would have given EPA control of things like the puddle on your sidewalk or the drainage ditch on a farm. And so there's been a lot of discussion about EPA going outside of its normal bounds, going outside of what Congress has asked it to do. But so what we've done is this bill will cut spending for EPA, will decrease it by about 20% since fiscal year 2010, and decrease its employment to about 1989 levels.
Jackie, do our viewers actually care? I mean, you're a media expert, and you know what gets them to tune in and watch the news or watch a talk show. Hopefully they're not tuning out right now because we're talking about the budget, but that's why Fresh Outlook exists, because we talk about things other people might not. But it's not exactly a sexy topic, and all people care about really, it seems to me, is that the government isn't gonna stop.
Right. Yeah, you know what? People don't know what the EPA does. All they know is that they regulate, They know about movies like Karen Silkwood and all that kind of stuff. I don't know about this drainage ditch thing, but what I do know is that back 25 years ago when I lived in Washington, D.C., the EPA was always holding the line against big business. Well, great, it's cheap to put arsenic and cyanide and dump it into the Puget Sound. It's cheaper than carting it away. It's cheaper than having regulations to relegate it. But you know what? These things do hurt people. We have this enormous rate of cancer in this country. And so the EPA is there to protect us from things like that. But you've got big money on the side of big business, and you've got all these lobbyists, and they are pushing anti-EPA regulation. And I find it almost immoral to take that stance that says, no, we've got to bring the levels down to 1989. No, we are the people, we need to live, and that's why they exist. That's why they were created.
Gotcha. Final thoughts, Alan.
Well, I think what you've got is exactly what you said. Most people care about a government running, and I think both parties felt the importance of doing that, and that's why we got a compromise. But that doesn't mean that the debates won't start next year, and they will. And at that point, people will start to pay attention to the details, such as, do we need an environmental protection agency? What kind of military do we want to run? What kind of torture policies do we want to have? And so what we're going to have is a government that runs so that we can now have the debates about the policy issues. Now, most policy issues, of course, most people don't know the details. Most people are not aware of what they are, and that's what typically happens in Congress. Laws get passed, and most people don't know what those laws are about. But on the big questions, on the big philosophical questions, I think people do pay attention, and I think the stage now is set for having those philosophical debates on the broad questions of American policy starting next year.
Rob, final thought?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the EPA is that they have specific legislative mandates, and it's not like yesterday they couldn't regulate water quality, and today they can because of this threatening new regulation. No, there's a whole regulatory framework in place for clean air and clean water, and so it's not a sort of an all or nothing thing. I mean, I don't see how anyone could think that the Clean Air Act or the Clean Water Act is a bad thing. I just don't understand that.
Let's turn to a final thought to Nicole Kaeding joining us from the Cato Institute. Nicole, when do we see the next showdown on this budget? Does it happen in 2015, and when?
I think that we will see a big budget fight coming up in the spring. Both the House and the incoming Senate have signaled willingness to fight on a budget that must be passed by April, and then from there they'll go into actually appropriating funds for the next fiscal year. And that was a big reason why Speaker Boehner and why Minority Leader McConnell really pushed to get this omnibus through, is they want to shift to the new budget year, to the new budget fight where they control both chambers of Congress.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much for your time and joining us today. When we come back, it is time for our lightning round from the Nobel Peace Prize winner who admits she still fights with her younger brother to the most watched YouTube videos of the year. After this.